They thought it was just another raid, another easy payday from a helpless human colony. They made one fatal mistake. They took the kids, and now the universe is about to learn a lesson it will never forget. Commander Threx stood on the bridge of the merciless void, his mandibles clicking with undisguised satisfaction as he reviewed the footage from their latest raid. On the holographic display before him, scenes of chaos played out in perfect clarity. The small human colony's defenses falling, panic in the streets, and most importantly, the capture of their primary targets. Magnificent work, wouldn't you say? He chittered to his bridge crew, his 4 eyes gleaming with pride. 6 young humans, all in prime condition. The slave markets will be practically throwing credits at us. His first officer, Lieutenant Sarela, bobbed her head in that peculiar way that indicated she was particularly pleased. The raid went even better than anticipated, Captain. Their defensive systems were pathetically inadequate. These humans really need to learn to protect their spawn better. Around the bridge, various crew members exchanged congratulatory clicks and whistles. Some were already calculating their shares of the forthcoming profits. Young humans were particularly valuable in the slave trade. Adaptable, quick learners, and surprisingly durable despite their soft exteriors. Captain, a hesitant voice cut through the celebration. It was Ensign Drav, their security officer, his scales shifting to an anxious shade of green. I've been reviewing historical data about human responses to juvenile abductions, and I really think we should. Oh, spare us your eternal worrying, Ensign Drav, Threx interrupted, with a dismissive wave of his upper appendage. What exactly do you think they're going to do? Send their military? By the time they organize a response, we'll be halfway across the sector. The bridge crew's laughter echoed off the metallic walls. Ensign Drav's scales darkened further, but he persisted. Sir, it's not their military I'm concerned about. There are documented cases of human parents. Parents. Lieutenant Sarela actually snorted. A most undignified sound. What? Are they going to chase us down in their primitive ground vehicles? Perhaps throw their primitive projectile weapons at our hull? Honestly, Ensign Drav, sometimes I think you've been reading too many human entertainment feeds. Threx stepped down from his command platform, moving to inspect the containment cell feeds more closely. The young humans were all secured, ranging in age from what humans called toddlers to pre-teens. Perfect age range for training. Some were crying, others looked shocked, and a few were already trying to figure out the cell's locking mechanism. Amusing, really. Let me explain something, Ensign Drav, Threx said, his voice dripping with condescension. We are the Void Claw Pirates. We've raided Chronaxian diamond vaults, outmaneuvered Zethari war fleets, and even survived an encounter with the legendary Swarm. These are humans we're talking about, soft, emotional creatures who still think burning fossilized plants is an acceptable way to power vehicles. He turned back to his crew, spreading all 4 arms in a gesture of triumph. By this time tomorrow, we'll be counting our profits and laughing about how easy this job was. Now, who's joining me in the officers' lounge for some fermented Qualaxian nectar? As the bridge crew filed out, still congratulating themselves on their cunning and success, Ensign Drav remained at his station. He pulled up another historical report on his screen, this one detailing the fate of the last group who had underestimated human parental instincts. His scales shifted to an even darker shade of green as he read the conclusion. No survivors. The fermented Qualaxian nectar was flowing freely in the officers' lounge when the first alarm sounded. Most of the bridge crew initially ignored it. After all, What could possibly threaten the mighty Void Claw pirates in the depths of space? "Sir," Ensign Drav's voice crackled over the intercom, tension evident even through the static. "You need to see this now." Commander Threx clicked his mandibles in annoyance. "Whatever it is, handle it yourself. We're celebrating." "Captain, our long-range sensors are detecting multiple ships dropping out of FTL. The numbers, they keep increasing." That got Threx's attention. He hadn't survived this long in the piracy business by ignoring potential threats. "Corporate security response?" he asked, already moving toward the bridge. "They're faster than usual, but nothing we can't handle." "No, sir, these aren't corporate vessels." The captain burst into the bridge, his celebratory buzz evaporating instantly at the sight of the tactical display. Dozens of ships were appearing on the screen. No, scratch that. Hundreds. But something was wrong. The signatures were all wrong. "What in the 7 moons of Qualax am I looking at?" Threx demanded. Ensign Drav's scales had gone almost black with stress. "They appear to be civilian vessels, sir. I'm reading everything from standard transport shuttles to cargo haulers. There's even what appears to be a modified garbage scow." Lieutenant Sorella laughed nervously. "Civilian vessels? What do they think they're going to do, Ramos?" As if in answer to her question, a transmission cut through their communication system. The universal translator crackled to life in a distinctly human voice, filled the bridge. "This is Nina Blake, mother of Luna Blake. You have my daughter. I've brought friends. We would like to have a word with you." Before Threx could respond, another transmission broke through. "Dave Granger here. My boy Danny better be unharmed, or I swear to God, what I learned in my high school shop class is going to become real relevant to your ship's structural integrity." Then another. "Lily Chen, mother of 3. I've got a minivan full of cleaning supplies, and I will find creative uses for them." The transmissions kept coming, a cascade of parental fury that overwhelmed their communication systems. Threx watched in growing horror as the tactical display updated, showing the approaching vessel's trajectories. They were being surrounded methodically and efficiently by ships that had no business being used in combat maneuvers. "Sir," one of the sensor operators called out, "I'm detecting some highly irregular energy signatures. It appears they've modified their vessels." "Modified how?" Lieutenant Sorella demanded. "That civilian transport. Its solar cooking unit has been converted into some sort of plasma cannon. And that cargo hauler. Its waste disposal system is now apparently a missile launcher. They're improvising, sir." Threx felt his exoskeleton grow cold. "Impossible. How did they even find us so quickly?" Ensign Drav cleared his throat. "It appears, sir, that human parents have formed some sort of emergency response network. The moment word got out about the children, they just dropped everything. Left their jobs, their homes, grabbed whatever ships they could find, and came. That agricultural vessel over there. The pilot was in the middle of a board meeting when he heard. He literally walked out, took his company ship, and joined the response fleet. But these are civilians," Threx protested. "They have no military training, no combat experience." Another transmission cut through. "Hey, alien jerks, you think we need military training? I coached Little League for 6 years. I can handle a bunch of overgrown insects who are stupid enough to take our kids." Lieutenant Sorella's antenna twitched nervously. "Sir, they're taking up attack positions. That formation, it's like nothing in our tactical databases, but it's working. They're covering each other's blind spots perfectly." "Of course they are," Ensign Drav muttered. "They're using their afternoon school pickup line strategy. They've been practicing this maneuver every weekday for years." Xark watched as the swarm of mismatched vessels tightened their formation around his ship. Their weapons might be improvised. Their ships might be held together with the space equivalent of duct tape and zip ties. But their purpose was clear. These weren't trained soldiers or corporate mercenaries who could be bought off or intimidated. These were parents, and they wanted their children back. "Sir, Lieutenant," Sorella's voice had gone up several octaves. "What are your orders?" Before Xark could respond, every single one of their warning systems activated simultaneously. The humans had finished positioning themselves. The space around the merciless void was filled with vessels piloted by beings who had already calculated exactly how much of their ships they were willing to sacrifice to reach their children. The answer, it seemed, was all of it. Xark's mandibles clicked rapidly in distress. He suddenly remembered all those historical reports Ensign Drav had tried to show him, the ones about human parental instincts that he had dismissed as exaggeration. He was about to learn just how wrong he had been. Martha Blake hadn't earned her reputation as the most efficient PTA president in Springfield Elementary's history by being timid. Her modified Honda Odyssey, now technically classified as a light assault vessel, led the first wave of the parent fleet's attack. The minivan's sliding doors had been replaced with weapon ports, and the roof-mounted DVD player now served as a targeting system. Soccer practice at 4 o'clock, ballet at 5:30, piano lessons at 7 o'clock, and alien ass-kicking right now, she muttered, checking her schedule display. "We're running behind, people. Let's move it." Her voice carried across the emergency command channel she'd set up, using the same organizational software she normally used to coordinate bake sales. The response was immediate and enthusiastic. "Copy that, Team Mum," came the reply from Rachel Kim, whose hybrid SUV now sported a plasma cannon where the bike rack used to be. "Formation Delta snack time." "Affirmative, just like practice, ladies." "Janice, you're looking a little wide on the left. Remember what we learned in parallel parking class?" The pirates watched in confusion as the fleet of modified civilian vehicles executed a series of precise maneuvers that seemed eerily familiar to anyone who'd ever witnessed a school pickup line in action. "Sir," reported the increasingly nervous tactical officer aboard the merciless void, "they're using some sort of... I think it's based on their merge, like a zip traffic protocol, but they weaponized it." Captain Xark's mandibles twitched as he watched the approaching formation. "Return fire. Show them why we're the most feared pirates in 3 sectors." The merciless void's main cannon charged up, its targeting system locking onto Martha's minivan. The energy beam lashed out and somehow missed completely. "Ha!" Martha's laugh crackled over the open channel. "You think that's impressive? Try threading through a Walmart parking lot during Black Friday. Susan, Chloe, show them that crossover maneuver we perfected at the mall." 2 modified SUVs broke formation, executing a complex evasive pattern that looked suspiciously like how they avoided shopping carts in crowded parking lots. The pirates' targeting systems couldn't keep up. "Ma'am," Martha's onboard AI, formerly her minivan's navigation system, reported, "I've identified a weakness in their shield configuration. It's similar to the gap in the school's security system that you exploited to set up that surprise Teacher Appreciation Day breakfast." "Perfect." Martha's fingers flew across her control panel, which still had Cheerio crumbs stuck between some of the buttons. "Ladies, remember how we got the bounce house into the gymnasium without Principal Thompson finding out? Same principle, just with more explosions." The pirates' security officer watched in horror as their supposedly impregnable shields were systematically dismantled by tactics that seemed to have been developed through years of organizing unauthorized school events. How are they doing this? Kazark demanded, his exoskeleton practically vibrating with stress. These are just civilian vessels. Sir, Ensign Drav reported, his scales now a concerning shade of pale green. The lead vessel, the minivan, it's piloted by someone identified in human records as a Martha. Apparently, she once successfully argued a parking ticket into a formal commendation from the mayor. Their weapons shouldn't even be functioning, Lieutenant Sarela protested. They're literally held together with something they call duct tape. And are those coupon codes being used to hack our systems? Indeed, Martha had discovered that the pirates' security protocols could be overridden using the same techniques she'd perfected for stacking digital coupons at Target. Her minivan's transformed cup holders, now missile launchers, were proving surprisingly effective. "Remember, ladies?" Martha's voice rang out across the command channel. "We've got that bake sale tomorrow at 8 hunt. I want this wrapped up in time for us to frost those cupcakes." She paused to launch another salvo. "And Jennifer, don't think this gets you out of bringing those gluten-free options you promised." The pirates watched in mounting horror as their defenses were systematically dismantled by suburban mothers applying their daily scheduling skills to space combat. Martha's minivan led a precision attack run that would have made Top Gun pilots jealous, all while she was simultaneously organizing next week's carpool schedule on her secondary screen. "Target their propulsion system," she commanded. "Just like parallel parking at Costco during the holiday rush, find the weak spot and don't be afraid to get a little aggressive." The resulting maneuver caused several pirate crew members to lose their lunch, which was quite a feat, considering their alien physiology. "Status report," Kazark demanded. "Sir," his tactical officer replied, mandibles quivering. "They breached our outer defenses using a combination of techniques apparently learned from extreme couponing and getting little Timmy to his game on time when the highways backed up. We have no defense against this." As Martha allowed herself a small smile as she watched the pirates' shields flicker and fail. "And to think," she mused, launching another perfectly timed strike. "My husband said all those years of managing the school carnival wouldn't lead to anything." The merciless void shuddered under the assault of what had once been suburban transportation, now transformed by the unstoppable force of maternal fury into instruments of vengeance. And this was just the first wave. The minivan moms were merely the opening act. "Time to show these aliens," Martha declared, her minivan's engines glowing with righteous parental fury. "Why you never ever mess with someone who can organize a 100-kid birthday party with only 2 days' notice." While Martha's minivan squadron kept the pirates distracted with their frontal assault, a less obvious threat was quietly approaching the merciless void's stern. Gary Holt, senior accountant at Miller & Associates, was leading a flotilla of repurposed work vehicles in what he dubbed Operation After Hours. "Jenkins, status report on the printer-turned-plasma cutter?" Gary asked, adjusting his reading glasses while his modified Prius drifted closer to the pirate ship's hull. "Sir, it's about as reliable as it was in the office," Jenkins replied from his converted mail delivery van. "Which is to say, it'll probably jam at the worst possible moment." "Perfect. They'll never expect that," Gary nodded sagely. "Thompson, how's that thing you did with the coffee maker?" Turns out the principles of brewing the perfect espresso translate surprisingly well to bypassing alien security systems, Thompson called back from what used to be a plumbing company truck. Who knew? The pirates' security systems barely registered the approaching vessels. After all, what threat could a Prius possibly pose? The answer, as they were about to discover, was quite a lot when piloted by a father who'd spent 20 years finding creative solutions to broken appliances. "All right, gentlemen, Gary announced, pulling up an Excel spreadsheet that had been repurposed into a tactical display. "Time to put those mandatory team-building exercise skills to use, Johnson. Remember that trust. Fall you refused to do at the corporate retreat. Well, now you're going to catch my ship with your tractor beam, and we're not going to discuss our feelings about it." The boarding operation began, with all the precision of a well-organized fantasy football draft. Gary, who normally couldn't figure out how to share his screen during Zoom meetings, somehow managed to hack the pirates' secure airlock controls using skills developed from years of dealing with stubborn office Wi-Fi. "Sir," a panicked pirate technician reported to Captain Kazark, "someone is accessing our systems using something called Control-Alt-Delete." "How is this possible?" Kazark demanded, his mandibles clicking frantically. "Our security protocols are state-of-the-art. There," and the technician's antenna drooped in confusion. "They're treating our entire ship like it's a frozen copy of Windows 95. Inside the ship, the pirates deployed their crowd control measures, sophisticated neural disruptors designed to incapacitate any boarding party. They weren't prepared for fathers who had built up years of immunity by stepping on Legos in the dark. "You call that pain?" chuckled Frank Grant, barely noticing the neural blast as he rounded a corner. "Try stepping on one of my daughter's Barbie shoes at 3:00 a.m. The pirates watched in horror, as their weapons had absolutely no effect. These humans simply walked through debilitating pain fields, comparing them to such mysterious tortures as assembling IKEA furniture and coaching Little League. "Did they just—" Verith's voice trembled. "Did they just break through our defense grid using a universal remote control?" "Technically," Ensign Drav responded, watching the security feeds with a mixture of horror and admiration. "They used 3 universal remotes, somehow synchronized, using what they call dad reflexes, apparently developed from years of catching falling sippy cups." Gary's team moved through the ship with inexorable dad energy. Years of fixing toys on Christmas Eve had prepared them well for dealing with alien technology. Jenkins, who had never successfully logged into his work computer on the first try, somehow managed to override the ship's internal defense systems using techniques learned from setting up home Wi-Fi networks. "Remember, gentlemen," Gary's voice crackled over their comms, "we're applying the 5-minute quick fix philosophy here. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to work, until we get the kids out." The pirates soon discovered that their automated security doors were no match for fathers who had mastered the art of closing garage doors with arms full of groceries. Their motion sensors were easily fooled by techniques perfected through years of sneaking snacks past sleeping toddlers. "Sir," Ensign Drav reported to Kazark, "they're using dad jokes as psychological warfare. Our troops are becoming increasingly confused and demoralized." Indeed, the boarding party's advance was punctuated by a barrage of groan-inducing puns and one-liners. "Guess you could say we're spacing out your security," Gary called out after disabling another sensor array. "Get it? Because we're in space?" The combination of dad jokes and improvised engineering proved devastatingly effective. These were men who had spent years fixing things with duct tape and WD-40. The pirates' advanced technology stood no chance against such battle-tested resourcefulness. "They've reached the secondary control room," Verith announced, her voice filled with disbelief. They're using a modified barbecue grill as a cutting torch." "Of course we are," Gary replied over the hijacked comm system. "You think this is complicated? Try organizing a neighborhood cookout where half the kids have dietary restrictions." Well, as the fathers breached the final defenses, Captain Kazark realized too late that he had severely underestimated the threat posed by suburban dads. These weren't just humans. These were humans who had mastered the art of assembly instructions written in 17 different languages, none of them correct. The last thing Xark heard before his bridge was breached was Gary's voice. I severely underestimated the threat posed by suburban dads. I'm Dad. While the parents were launching their assault from outside, the pirates were discovering that their helpless captives were anything but. In holding cell Block C, 12-year-old Danny Wilson was already putting his countless hours of Minecraft Redstone contraption videos to use. Okay, see this glowing panel here? He whispered to 6-year-old Luna Blake. It's basically just like a repeater circuit, and that means he pried off the cover with techniques learned from sneaking his tablet back from his parents' hidden drawer. That means we can make a trap, Sophia finished excitedly, already pulling out the shoelaces she'd managed to keep hidden. Her 3 older brothers had taught her well. In the security monitoring room, 2 increasingly concerned pirates watched the children's activities with growing alarm. "Why are they all smiling like that?" one guard asked nervously. "They're captured. They shouldn't be smiling." His companion's antenna twitched. The small one just said something about this being just like Home Alone. What's a Home Alone? Neither of them would get an answer to that question, but they would soon find out firsthand. The holding cells had been designed to contain adult prisoners. The pirates hadn't counted on the fact that human children spent approximately 73% of their free time figuring out how to get into places they weren't supposed to. The ventilation system, which would have been too small for an adult, might as well have had a neon secret passage sign on it for kids who'd mastered the art of hiding from bedtime. "Remember summer camp?" Lily Kim called out softly as she helped boost the younger kids into the vent. "This is just like sneaking into the boys' cabin to put their hands in warm water while they sleep." The pirates' sophisticated security systems were proving remarkably vulnerable to techniques developed through years of trying to raid cookie jars and Christmas present hiding spots. 8-year-old Ethan Brooks, who had never managed to sit still during math class, was somehow rewiring alien technology using skills learned from modding his Nintendo Switch. "Sir," a frantic report reached the bridge. "The prisoners are... They're singing something about sharks and babies." Indeed, the youngest children had launched into an enthusiastic rendition of Baby Shark, which was proving surprisingly effective at disrupting the pirates' sonic detection systems and their sanity. "Make it stop," one guard pleaded, his exoskeleton vibrating at an uncomfortable frequency. "How do they know the exact resonance frequency that disturbs our neural patterns?" "They don't," his superior responded grimly. "They're just being children." The brig was rapidly transforming into what the kids enthusiastically dubbed the ultimate obstacle course. Years of watching Ninja Warrior shows and setting up elaborate pranks had prepared them well. The pirates found their own security measures turned against them in ways that would have impressed military strategists, if those strategists were also fans of cartoon physics. Did they just... A security officer stared at the monitors in disbelief. Did they just recreate the marble scene from Home Alone using the ship's gravity control spheres? "The what scene from what?" his companion asked, just before stepping into what had once been a standard corridor, and was now a physics-defying nightmare of rollerblade principles applied to zero gravity. Meanwhile, 13-year-old Emily Grant, who had spent the last year learning to code because she wanted to mod her favorite games, was happily explaining to the younger kids how she'd managed to hack into the ship's internal communications system. "It's actually easier than getting past the parental controls on my iPad," she explained, broadcasting what appeared to be an endless loop of "It's a Small World" through the ship's speakers. "Plus, I found their equivalent of a Windows 95 backdoor